class we haven't done for a couple years, but I had a lot of people ask to do it again. So have you guys, I know you two have been to classes. You've been to classes before? Oh, nice. So we got insects is probably the most important year we could probably do this class too. We had no winter. I got a feeling bugs are going to be everywhere because they did not get a chance to get cut back. And I would say the other half of this is there's a lot of stuff changing in the state of Washington, which means they change for me, which ultimately means they change for you as a homeowner. There's some things you probably are used to buying on the murder, death, kill side of sprays, the chemical side, that are now banned or not saleable anymore. So there's some things that you might go, where's that? I've always used it. We're gonna have to go a different direction now. I'm a natural organic person at my house, so it doesn't break my heart. They pulled some things that probably should have never been sold in the first place, but it doesn't change the fact that it was useful for a few things around here, and they're gonna have to come up with a different solution. So if there's something in your garage, they're not going to come arrest you because you have a bottle of it still. You just can't buy anymore. So it's pulled off the shelf as of January 1st, and off we'll go a different direction. Okay. So you can always use this sheet to go back to. Next Sunday, I'm going to do diseases. It's kind of the second half of this class, and it's almost the same problem as we just talked about with bugs. I got a feeling you're going to see a lot of disease this year because, again, of the mild, wet winter. And we always typically fight disease in the spring as well. So hopefully next Sunday we'll do a little bit of that. So I'm going to show you some pictures. I brought in a few products here to show you. I'll stop every little bit. You can ask me questions. I'm here all day, so we can play 20 questions. That's always fun with bugs in general. But there's lots of fun stuff that we still can use, and I think we can, as homeowners, still correct a lot of the issues that we find in our landscapes without having to hire somebody to do it for us. So I'm going to move some pictures through here, and we'll see. So I would always start with some general tips. I mean, if I started the class by asking who likes to spray, nobody's going to raise their hand because we don't want to. We don't want to spend the time. We'd rather be out doing something more fun. So some of this stuff would probably help you stay ahead of the game and not even have to go back to the spray if we kind of keep a few of these things in mind. So debris cleanup. This is a tough one for me. I'm a little OCD, so I try to tell myself not to clean every little speck of twig and shop back my yard every fall. But there's certain plants, I think you would agree, if you think about your yard, whether it's slugs, whether it's whitefly, whether it's aphids, whatever it is, if we leave all that old junk around there and just don't do anything about it, now we're in spring and it's still sitting there, we're probably going to have the same problem that we had in 2025 and 2026. So I don't clean up every speck. I do some areas, but I go to plants and say, okay, I know you're typically a little more slug prone. Let's get the leaves, the debris, cut it back, get it away from the crown, and get my protective circle around it as kind of an example, okay? So I kind of always call, you find that balance between neat and natural. We've all got our own tolerances for how much debris we like. It all turns into beautiful mulch. Mother Nature helps our soil, on and on. I got no problem if you want to leave it, but I would look at some of those specific plant ideas and think, you know, what did I have issues? Who's got roses as an example? So I would never leave anything on my rose from 2025 to 2026. Your eye is not going to see the black spot, the mildew, the issues that typically get on roses. So that's a perfect example of something you've got to go out coming out of winter, clean up the foliage that has fallen, strip the plant, prune it. Now we have a chance to start the year clean. Does that make sense? That's an easy example. That could be a lot of other issues. I had mildew on this last year, or I had bugs on that, or whatever it is. We want to make sure we clean that debris up, okay? Pruning and air circulation helps with disease, but also helps with bugs. If I have congested areas, places for them to hide, nest, all the rest of it, a little bit of pruning, a little bit of air circulation is always going to help. The right plant in the right place is probably more important than you think it is. If I have a plant that's struggling because it was supposed to be in sun and I put it in shade, or it's got bad drainage and it's supposed to have good drainage, a weaker plant is always going to be more susceptible to all kinds of damage, including insects. So I'm not going to talk about disease cycles. That'll be next week. Overhead watering sometimes helps get bugs off tip growth, but it's not going to help you with the rest of it. So try to always water at the base. The big thing with bugs, and again, I'd say this year and specifically, is get ahead of the game early. If you don't do anything here for a month, 2 months go by, and that one little aphid has a chance to multiply. They're born pregnant, for goodness sakes. you're going to have 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 1,000,000 of them over everything. So if we can get on there early, it's kind of what I've always called integrated pest management. You kind of know your yards, you know what maybe might get this or that. If we can get ahead of it, we're not going to have to go to the bad chemical solution, and we just don't let them get started. All right. So spring weather is a big part of this. You know, every bottle up here I'll show you at the end of the class, it's going to tell you rain proof in an hour. You know, do it on a dry day. We all know we're not going to go out and spray in the rain. It's just going to wash it off. But I don't need to have 24 hours of daylight or anything like that. I think a lot of people I talk to think they need more dry than they really do. Most of this stuff is an hour or two, maybe 4 hours at the most, and the vast majority is just an hour or two. So if I have a day like today and I got a minute to go out and spray, it's not going to rain today, knock on wood, it's not supposed to, but this would have been a great day to get up and say, oh, I can get a few things sprayed if I need it, you know, and I don't have to worry about it. Same thing, maybe not tomorrow, but yesterday would have been the same way as well. So look at the weather and just find those opportunities where we can get the spray down for sure. Choose the right spray for what your problem is, and choose the right time. That's part of this, is the time of year, but I think also is the time of the day. So if we take, I always bring neem oil up because it's my favorite spray and it's all organic. But let's say I'm a good gardener and I'm using neem oil for a lot of stuff. If I go out at noon on a sunny day in June and spray my butterfly garden because it has aphids on it and I have bees around and butterflies and everything else, even though neem oil is organic, I'm going to kill every single bee and butterfly that neem oil gets on. So just choosing the organic way to go, great, good on you, but you would also need to say, okay, I'm going to get up a little early and get it sprayed before the bees are active, or do it late in the evening when they're not active, so we protect our pollinators and take care of the bad bugs we don't want. So try to find that right spray, and we'll go through that today, but also the right time. I would also say, you know, this is down here a little bit, but I'm going to throw this in because I think it's the right spray is huge. Get a diagnosis. I think a lot of gardeners, there's a lot of good gardeners, and you're going to recognize a lot of stuff if you've seen it before. Great, you know, take care of it. You probably know what to do. But if you're unsure, always bring a sample down. Take a couple close-up pictures on the cell phone. Email them to us. Bring your phone down. We can look at it together. Because I would rather get you the right solution for the right problem that you have, so you don't have this fester and go on and on. There's some things, again, that we all see that are pretty common, but there's a lot of things that might not even be a bug or disease by chance. It might be a fertilizer burn or drainage or some other issue that we can help correct. All right? Learn good spray techniques and cover thoroughly. The worst thing you can do is walk out and bless your plant. If you have a problem that you need to spray for, get it sprayed. This isn't a quick little Windex thing, oh, I'm good to go. We want to get underneath, we want to get the whole thing. We're not going to put gallons of spray on a small shrub, but you should look out and see it completely wet, top and bottom, and not necessarily dripping everywhere. A little bit coming off means you got it on good, but that's what we need to do, especially with bug. A lot of times it's not the top, it's the bottom. Those little guys are sucking sugar underneath our foliage. We got to get them covered. If I get neem oil and cover the top, I'll get some, but I'm not going to get all of them because I have not covered the bottom as well. So try to get in there a little bit and cover as best you can. Feed your plants. We all feed our children, and I feed my boys. You should feed your plants. Again, a stronger plant is always going to be more resilient to insect damage, so make sure we spray a little bit. I would ask you to probably think to last year, and a lot of gardeners do. I always have things stuck in my craw. What happened last year? What plant had an issue? Where did I have bugs in my yard? Then I could again get ahead of it for 2026, and I don't have to go to the bottle of murder, death, kill down the road. If I can get ahead of it, I don't have to use something so harsh, okay? One big thing for bugs is adult egg larva. We've got quick rejuvenation. I mean, I think we would agree with insects, they've been here for millennia before we are going to be here, and they're going to be here for billions of years after we're long dead and buried, I hate to say. So they usually win. Bugs multiply fast. That's what they're made for. There are bugs everywhere, the most frequent thing on Earth. So knowing which your bug is phase one, but also knowing its life cycle and how do I win is phase two, because a lot of these things, you can't just go and spray one time I'm good to go, especially with the restrictions on systemics and things that were probably a good thing again, but that we don't have options anymore to have a systemic. So with natural things, I get once, I probably get the adults, the eggs hatch, I get it again in a week or 10 days. Those are done. Maybe a third spray, a week or 10 days, and I'm done. I'm easy and done. So if I'm going to get a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you here, insecticidal soap, neem oil, bond neem, on and on, I'm going to get it today. I'm going to get it again in 7, 10, 2 weeks, and I'm going to get it again in 7, 10 days, 2 weeks. So boom, boom, boom. Then I've eliminated it from any further issue. Okay? Now, just a couple basic things. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about topical sprays, systemic sprays, natural and organic. Now, organic is OMRI listed, okay? But I'll just say this. There's a lot of companies that do not want to pay the federal government. It doesn't mean it's not organic. They just don't register it as such. There's a massive fee to have that stamp put on your bottle. So for us, I interchange organic and natural. I think everybody, you could look online and look up neem oil and say that's an organic option for gardeners. The neem oil we carry does not have an OMRI stamp on it. It doesn't change the fact it's pure neem oil. Our bottles here, if you look at the labels, it's going to have a brown shoulder, and if I look at any of the natural product labels, I have that brown chunk on the label. Okay, so I can walk through that pharmacy in there, and like 99% of what we have now is that. We have very few chemicals of any kind anymore, which makes me happy. So we have lots of natural options to look at. Topical just simply means if I spray it on a leaf, I'm just putting it on there and I'm going to have instant kill. Okay, I get it on that bug, I have a little bit of residual on there for some time, it kills the bug, and I move on. Systemic is what I'm telling you is banned, and that is because when we spray that on a plant as a gardener, it's soaked in and goes everywhere. Stem, leaf, flower, pollen, fruit, berry, the entire plant. We would never use systemics on anything we're going to eat, for one, but even on roses, the garden like that, what ends up happening is we kill our bees. So I'm glad the state again has nixed it. The main culprit was a chemical called imidacloprid, and that was in a massive amount of products. Probably half of the systemics these days are imidacloprid. But that again, you should not find anywhere anymore. I can't speak for the chain store places. I don't know that they've pulled it off their shelves yet, but they're not going to find that at the Sunnysides, the Skies, the Christensens. We're going to abide by the state law and not give that to homeowners anymore. Okay, so just a little bit to start was kind of that. I would think of this as I need typically a topical spray. All these are going to be topical that we're going to do, and I'm looking for something probably more on the natural or organic side that's going to take care of my problem but not hurt anything else. Okay, I would always go green if you can and weigh your options. I think there's very few things that I would ever have a customer go the chemical route anymore. There's a few diseases more than insects, and maybe a borer might be the one that if you had borers in your tree and they were killing your birch or whatever tree it was, that I might say you can't buy it, but you might want to call a spray service and have them come inject it to take care of that problem, because you're not going to probably get it very easily with the options that are available as a homeowner anymore. Okay, and then a big thing with me is always pollinator health. We're kind of saving our bees. We want to make sure that's probably the most important thing these days going forward. Now I'm going to show you some pretty pictures. I hope you can see those lovely creatures there. If we talk about sucking insects real quick, it's, you know, probably the two most common things we're going to look at here: aphids and whiteflies. Aphids can be all kinds of colors. They're very small. I find it amusing that literally they are born pregnant. So if you want to talk about the most multiplying, the quickest to take over a plant, it's probably going to be aphids.
So it's not one and done.
they're going to be there. So you got one, you got 10 tomorrow, you got 100, they just go crazy. So typically, again, I've seen them everywhere. If you've got a bad infestation, they're probably crawling all over the tip of the plant, but a lot of times they are hanging underneath the newer growth. They want that sugar to extract from your leaves. So I got a lot of options for aphid. This is something I've for 30 years I would have said you don't need to go get murder, death, kill to kill aphids. I could probably mix up some dish soap in my kitchen sink and make them sick to their stomach, and I probably win. But anything up here, from neem oil to Captain Jack's to insecticidal soap to bond neem, all this stuff, it's natural to take care of your aphids. Again, because they multiply so quickly, I would always spray again in a week or so, and a third time in a week or so, and you're probably good to go. And this is the time of year to get ahead. They are going to go to the new foliage. So anything that's leafing out, that's what I'd be watching in my yard, from rhododendron new growth to spirea to anything that they might get on it, okay? So typically if you're not seeing the bottom of the leaf, eventually as they extract sugar, you can see in that second picture, my leaf is going to stifle and curl and contort a little bit. Some people bring this in and think they have a disease. We open up the leaves like, nope, you got a bunch of little sugar suckers underneath there that are taking the juice out of your foliage and making that contortion. So you'll see a lot of distorted new growth typically if we have aphid, okay? It's pretty close to the same thing with whitefly. The difference with these is they would move. So if I think I have whitefly and I just barely touch that plant, you're going to see the little tiny white specks of dust fly up and then go right back down on that plant. So again, I don't need anything crazy to kill them. I can use those safe natural things, but that's another one that'll multiply so fast. We want to make sure we get ahead. I've had this in my yard on annuals, on my tomato. Whiteflies look good on just about anything. I had it on my boxwood last year, for goodness sakes, and it was easy to get it out of there. But there's a lot of things, again, new growth, that fresh plant sugar they're going to go for. Then we have mites, okay? This is one we would have to get the magnifying glass out. A lot of times I tell people, if you bring me a sample leaf in a bag, preferably, to look at, or you're doing this at Plant Scientist in your garden, get a piece of blank white paper, put it on the table, and take that leaf and just flick it and touch it a little bit and see what falls on that paper. And if you see little specks of dust that are moving, we probably have mites. We got a magnifying glass, you'll be able to see them. But typically, again, I put those pictures up because they're very, very small. This is way smaller than typically the naked eye can see sometimes. But if I look close, I see them, and I always kind of see that webbing. You know, usually if I got a spider mite or a mite infection, I'm going to see that light kind of webbing underneath the foliage there. That'll usually let me know, okay, I got spider mites, we got to get those taken care of. That's one, again, I would try to get pretty quick. The warmer we get, the more mites are out. That is typically not an early thing. The aphids and whiteflies are probably now. The mites probably would be more like once we get some sun and we're warmed up, usually more like May, June, as we get into the heat of the summer, hopefully, okay? Now, a couple chewing type insects, I'm not extracting sugar and causing that stifling, but I'm actually eating your leaf. You're seeing a piece missing, a spot, a nest of some kind, things that are physically eating the foliage. Leaf miner is one I see quite a bit around here, both birch and lilac. My lilacs, that's from my lilac tree a few years ago. Lilac leaf miner seems to get a lot of lilacs around here. That is a little fly that will lay their larvae, and if you looked at your leaf, there's two leaf tissues, right, top and bottom. They actually get in between the two, and that little worm that sits there, the larva, and eats away your tissue. And that's why we look at a leaf and we see kind of that puckered patch, like a big random brown thing, could be anywhere. If you carefully peeled it open, you'll usually find a little worm in there. You can squish it or throw it away. But if they develop, they hatch and they move on. This isn't going to kill your plant, but if I looked out, you know, June or July, and I saw my lilac with just brown spots of dead leaves everywhere, it probably had leaf miner infestation that spring. So again, a lot of different things will take care of that. We used to go for systemic because, again, I can soak it into the leaf and kill what's inside of it, but we're not going that route anymore. So we would get something like the Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew, which is spinosad, or there's a few other ways as well. I could even get the flies sometimes if you get it out here early before they have a chance to lay their eggs in there, okay? Then we've got lovely things like leaf rollers. The same thing, I'll see some webbing, but if I walked out and saw my leaf kind of curled up and rolled, and there's literally the worm inside of there, they've made a nest for themselves to stay sheltered. So I see this sometimes on rhododendron a little bit, but on a lot of different plants we would see that leaf rolled up, and perhaps again, there's lots of different things listed for leaf rollers on there. Caterpillars always make me laugh because we are a lot of bugs, and in caterpillars in particular, we're always on a never-ending cycle. We don't have any anywhere, and we reach the crescendo, and there's caterpillars on every plant in Western Washington, and then they're gone again. It's usually about 6 or 7 years. I'm gonna tell you right now, I think this is gonna be the year of the caterpillar. You're gonna either see a bunch, or everything is gonna have it, and then next year is gonna be the same, and then there'll be nothing again for a few years. So I've already seen them around some native areas. I volunteered our arboretum here in Everett. We have a bunch of nests already on some of the Douglas firs and some of the native things. So I'm just telling you, watch early. If you walk around your yard, you're gonna see those tents where the different styles of caterpillar are very, very noticeable. Take care of it right away. The longer you leave it, the worse it's gonna get. So if we get them out of there when they're young, you'll be done with it. We're done. You know, 40, 50 years ago, we used to get a flamethrower and the chainsaw, and you saw a caterpillar, you would chop the limb off and burn it and do all. Don't do any of that stuff. You don't need to anymore. There's totally safe sprays. The parks use it, the state uses it, you should use it. If I spray BT, which is this one right here, okay, that's a natural bacteria that makes caterpillars sick to their stomach. That's exactly the same thing that any of the parks, the city, the state would all use. Totally safe to use out in the environment. So I've seen helicopter sprays going on in Seattle years ago, spraying parks that were infested with this, down at Carkeek Park and different places. So BT is the way to go. If I've got caterpillar of any kind, get them on there early. And if you haven't yet, especially if you live neighboring a greenbelt or native area, I would really walk your yard and look at the perimeter, because they just march in and they go from plant to plant to plant, and they will eat every tree in your yard if you walk away from them. Okay, the birds will help us, eat some of course, but I think the BT is probably going to be this year and next year. You're going to need to get some of that to make sure it's hip to a minimum. Okay. There's a picture of borers, just as an example. We have a lot of people that will call down here later spring, summer, and say, my birch tree leafed out, but one big huge branch or the top of the tip didn't leaf out. What is wrong? It's almost always birch borer. This is a tough one to diagnose, because a lot of times it's woodpecker or sapsucker that's actually drilling the holes on your trunk. But they're typically going to be in more of a pattern, right? You see a woodpecker stand there and ting, 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 ting. He's there because he's probably eating these. I will tell you right now, you probably have borers. He's looking for the grubs underneath the bark. But if I pull a piece of bark away and I see those channels growing up, birch, a lot of trees can get borers, but birch is usually the typical one up here. I probably have borer, and again, I should do something about it sooner than later. If I walk away from borer, they will definitely take out your tree at some point. It's going to cut off. They eat those channels and they cut off 360 degrees. We don't have circulation between the root system and the crown. The tree will crash and burn. So we got to make sure we get the borers out of there.
Is that with BT?
Well, again, I think if you got it the right time, BT, but if it was me, I would go spinosad. That's a far superior product, the Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. And that would be something I would probably hope that you would bring me a sample, a picture, because it's not that every tree gets bored. It's never the case. But if it is that, we would want to diagnose it properly and say, no, you don't have that. We've got a woodpecker. Let him have a few snacks and he's good to go. But if it was borer, we would want to treat it right away. And like I said, you know, if I got a 50-foot beech tree in my yard and I'm trying to save it, this is probably something you're going to be calling up a spray service and saying, look, I got borers. I'd appreciate it if you come down here and take care of it. They get in a syringe and actually inject it into the circulatory system, and that will knock it out of the entire tree. I don't want to confuse you, but this is a hard topic because, again, I'm anti-chemical 100%. But if I take birch in particular, that is not a pollinated tree. No bee is ever going to be on a birch tree. It's pollinated by the wind. So if there was one plant that I could use murder, death, kill on and not worry about killing all the bees that visit it, that's not the case with birch. Does that make sense? So having them come and inject it for you, don't feel like you're killing our pollinators. That would be a totally safe one. If it was on a cherry, a crabapple, a blooming tree, yeah, you're going to have to make some choices and maybe wait till it's done blooming, the bees are done with it, then maybe I get it injected then. Does that make sense? Okay. The last couple here are going to be the tough ones, okay? I'm going to end up, I'll be honest, I usually write about plants. If you guys read my articles every week, I typically write a lot about plants and have some fun, and we do a little this and that. I'm going to be writing about some of these bugs here in the coming weeks because I think the public should know what belongs here, what doesn't belong here, and what has made its way from far climates that is going to take our state out if we don't do something about it. So some of these are just once in a while we see it. I see these in my yards on occasion. Some people are unlucky enough to see it more than others, but some of these will be a little bit tougher to take care of for sure. And these are again things I would expect you to probably not know off the top of your head, and maybe bring a sample down or shoot me some pictures so we get you a diagnosis and can get the problem fixed. So mealy bugs are one of the worst if you ask me. I don't see them outside as much. It's not to say you won't. This is usually a houseplant thing. We're very careful with us here as far as where we get our stock and how we treat them. But mealy bugs are brutal. They cling, they hide. One little one left is another 1,000 of them if you just don't get one. So I mean, we alcohol swab, we use neem, we use all kinds of stuff to check every little nook and cranny of houseplants in particular, our tables, benches, all of it. So really keep an eye. It's always going to be that white, soft, kind of fun, cottony looking bug. They're disgusting though. And that's one we want to get ahead of sooner than later on mealy bug. Scales the same way. If you think of a scale, think of like a barnacle. If we were out at the beach and we're looking at a big boulder in the tidal pool, we got all those barnacles and limpets stuck to that rock. You can't just walk up and very easily pluck those off. And if you think of that, the way that's stuck to there, if I spray that, nothing is really penetrating that shell to kill that scale either. So you have to think of scale in two phases. We call them crawlers, and then once they're attached for the season, now they're actually a scale. So it's still a bug, and what do all living creatures need? Oxygen, right? So if I get a spray oil like neem or horticultural oil, and I'm very careful to spray that wood and coat it 100%, I cut off oxygen, I probably win. Okay, and this is something a lot of people do in the winter, even as a preventative. If you physically see them moving, they're not hard shell yet, they're soft, very easy to take care of it with something like the Captain Jacks. You'll have 100% success right away, okay? Now, two brutal ones that I have not dealt with Japanese beetle yet. I'll do that in the second one, but I'll tell you I've dealt with viburnum beetle. Who's got viburnum? Snowball bush, double file viburnum, evergreen viburnum, any kind of viburnum. If you walk out and you watch your yard, and I watched mine, and mine was gone in 3 days. Gone, 10 feet by 10 feet, totally gone. So I watched, and it still got me 2 years ago, and I don't have a viburnum anymore because of that. So really watch it, because this little larva, they'll hatch. They will eat the entire green of the tree. You'll be left with like midribs of leaves here and there and nothing else. And if you don't spray for it, they will eat that viburnum to the ground. It's only viburnum. So if you're not sure, again, ask. But I would really watch this. This year, probably a little bit earlier because we had no winter. I would usually say starting maybe mid-April or so, I would be out as soon as my viburnum's leafed out and monitor the leaves. If I turn a leaf over, you're going to see like almost little dark blackish brown leeches. Little tiny little leeches that are just crawling around. And again, they multiply so fast, they will defoliate that plant pretty quickly. I don't have to get murder, death, kill again to take care of that. I had excellent luck with spinosad. Okay, if I would have got it, I got it the year before and the year before that, but I didn't get it the third time, and so my plant was gone. But if I keep that around the house, it's a good spray to have around anyway. Vegetables, a lot of stuff, that would take care of your viburnum leaf beetle. The larvae is what we want to control. Then they go down into the ground over the winter, and we can treat in the ground as well before they crawl back up and start doing their thing in spring.
What are we putting on the ground?
We would go 8. We'll do that in a
okay.
second. But the best way is just watch it, because it's always going to be this April, May to early June time frame. It's always going to be in spring. If I catch them on there, I spray, I'm done with it. Okay? And I bet you if you look around or ask a neighbor, they'll be like, oh, that's what happened to my snowball bush or whatever kind of viburnum it was. On the left there is Japanese beetle. And I'll be honest, this is not in our area yet. I want to make sure that's clear. This is on quarantine in eastern Washington. It has now been positively found in SeaTac in a neighborhood. So I'm telling you, it's going to be here at some point. Bugs always travel, and they will win eventually. We have to do something about this particular one, or they will eat this entire state. This is timber, it's Weyerhaeuser, it's every plant. There's not something specific that Japanese beetle will eat. It's pretty much anything. So you will see them look like little kind of scarabs, a little bit orangey, coppery color, but you'll see them. If you've got them, they will be all over a plant, and they will defoliate that thing very, very quickly, and then they're on to the next plant, and the next one after that, and it'll never stop. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so I have some beetles coming in the house that look like ladybugs, but they're orange.
Okay.
And then they have like an M shape on their head with white.
Okay.
So I Google lensed it, and it said it was a Japanese.
Okay, do me a favor. If you catch them, put them in a Tupperware jar, and you can bring them down here. They're not gonna come to your house and take your yard, but I think you really should let the Department of Agriculture know, because this is a huge issue, and obviously Japanese has no business being here.
Right.
But a lot of this stuff ends up, hitching a ride on something and ends up in our fine state. So this is bad. East Coast, Midwest, and it's just progressing its way across the country. But they would really like to know, because this is something the Ag Department, I help out with the Ag Board, they're really trying to help homeowners. They're not going to come and burn your yard down or spray it. They're going to give you a trap to start catching them, and it's a totally natural thing.
Okay.
So this is a problem, which is one of the reasons I'm going to write about that in particular, because even at SeaTac, with the state of our government and our fine president and all the rest of it, I'm not going to get into, there's a lot of people that don't want anything to do with the government, period, right now. So even though they knock on your door and call and say, hey, we've had Japanese beetle in this neighborhood, would you please help us out by laying these traps out in your yard somewhere? We'll monitor it. There's no cost to you. There's nothing for the homeowner, and people are just ghosting them. They don't call back. They get off my property. I don't want to talk to you, kind of thing. So that's their right, as a homeowner, but I'm telling you, if you can help, watch it, because that's what matters. If they know it's up here, they come trap real quick, and hopefully we can stop it, is the whole point.
Isn't there an invasive ladybug?
There's invasive everything.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is this stuff just keeps hitching a ride and it doesn't belong here, and then it has no predators, it has nothing to take care of it, so then it leaves unchecked and it takes over another region, kind of thing. So I'm just telling you, I've been doing this a long time, and I don't get freaked out by bugs very often, but this Japanese beetle could honestly change our lives. I mean, it would ruin this state. Weyerhaeuser's gotten involved now, because it'll defoliate the entire native area. I mean, literally, it'll just be gone if we don't stop it. So
We had it in Kentucky.
yeah, there's no natural thing here of any kind to take care of it, is the problem. So over time, I'm sure some bird will find a liking to them, or a different critter of some kind, but as of now, it just isn't out there. So watch it. It's, again, totally easy to spray for with something natural, or get the traps, or available online, and the Ag Department will probably provide it for you as well. Okay. Another one I say the last 5, 6, 7 years has really been taken over is lacebug, and the problem with lacebug is it's probably our favorite plants that every one of us has in our yard. It's rhodie, it's azalea, it's pieris. Those are probably the most 3 things I see it on, and those are probably also the 3 most planted specimens in western Washington, in parks, landscapes, cities, everywhere. So I would watch your plants before. If I look out, can you see the picture that kind of looks like it's almost variegated, like it's got algae on it? That's a telltale sign. If I go to people's yards all the time. Across the yard, I can see it. Hey, I know I'm here to help you with this, but let me show you something real quick, because people look at it and think, oh, it needs food, it's dropping leaves, it's not happy. We have to get that sprayed for, because they will eat every single leaf, and all you will ever have is the top. And then the next year they'll eat that, and then you got another piece of new growth, and you will not have your plant back. I've seen them take out pieris in commercial settings in 1 year. They're just gone. They got to rip them out and spend money to replace them, kind of thing. So again, neem oil, very, very effective if I spray my plant, especially in the fall. Sometimes I will put that on as a preventative. If I spray neem on the bottom, the top, I've got a shield up that will take care of anything that's trying to hang out there over the winter, especially this year with no winter, okay? This is what I would go to again, is that spinosad. If you came in and said, here's a leaf, oop, you got lace bug, let's take care of that, we would get that spinosad on there right away, because that does a very good job at killing the larvae, okay? So what's done is done. I mean, if I walked out to my rhodie and I saw the whole plant looking like that stifled look, I turn it over, I can see all those little black tar spots. Okay, I had lace bugs going. They'll probably be back this year. The damage is done. Those leaves are going to drop. They're going to fall out. We're going to rake them up. We're going to get rid of them this year. The key is we have to break the cycle. We have to keep them from getting on the new leaves that come out when we're done blooming, okay? So I would typically, if you had this, have you spray it once, top and bottom. We would never spray and bloom for the bees again. We would let that rhododendron, the azalea, whatever it is, finish flowering. If it was me and it needed it, I might choose to prune just a touch and get that over with. And then as soon as my new leaves are emerging here in the following weeks, I'm going to get that sprayed right away to make sure we don't get that back on there. And again, if I use something like spinosad, it's the lace bug, it's the whitefly, it's the aphid, it's all of it. So I can really protect my plant with that.
So if it's in bud but not open, you could spray it.
Still fine. Yeah, we just,
Okay.
again, I'm always trying to protect the bees.
Okay.
And even though I'm using something safe, I spray it into a flower, I get it on the bee, I'm going to do some damage. So we just want to avoid when things are in bloom typically. Okay? Yeah, now you saw me kind of emphasize the last couple. I'm telling you, that's one I'd really watch for. I don't think I've been to a yard in 2 years that I have not seen one azalea, a rhodie, or something with that on. And if I don't do anything, it's rhodie, azalea, pieris. They will get on every single plant as they progress through the landscape, okay? Now here's a couple that maybe everybody don't see, but I think, again, there are a couple good examples of some stuff that can happen. Sawfly is probably another one I'll write about. This is not typically what you maybe think of as azalea. It's not our typical evergreen little azaleas. This would be exbury or deciduous azaleas. Anyone have any of those? Orange flower, gold flower, all kinds of colors. They're great plants to grow, but we lose our leaves in the winter. The sawfly typically comes in right after bloom, and that thing looks funky because, again, like the viburnum beetle, they have eaten every single green tissue on that plant and left you with the midrib of the leaf. So you got little spikes that looks like what was leaves sticking out everywhere with no green left at all. And I've seen that, again, kill a plant. If we don't have green, we don't have chlorophyll, we're not producing sugar, and we're not going to make it. So sometimes they refoliate a little bit if we prune them, but it's much better to say, okay, I have seen that happen before in my yard. I'm watching it as it leaves out. I see some of that damage start. I can get a natural spray and take care of it right away. I don't have to let it get to that point, okay? I think apple maggot, is it anyone growing fruit a little bit? I think apple maggot's a great discussion because I think this is the poster child for what you can and can't do to battle insects, okay? If I have apple maggot, there's a little tiny fly. You can hardly see it. It's not very big. She flies in when your apples get to about nickel size, and she wants to lay eggs on your apples. That thing tunnels into the center, the larva, and sits there and eats your fruit. So if you have apples and I cut it in half and open it up, I'm always going to see a brown streak to the middle of the fruit, and then there's a little worm in there typically. Once that matures, it hatches, there's another fly, there's more apple maggots. Does that make sense? So being this is something we eat, we're not going to use chemical, right? We don't want to eat chemical. There's no orchard in Washington that's doing this either. So we hang traps because we want to get a pheromone trap to hang out there to catch that fly before she even gets her eggs laid. So you're going to find in there for fruit flies, apple maggots, things like that in our trees, you're going to have much better luck getting a trap and hanging them in there in a few weeks and keeping it up during the season, because you will catch the bad ones and keep your fruit clean, okay? Apples, a lot of times people look at it and see the spots on the skin and think they have maggot. It could be scab, something totally different that has nothing to do with that. So I would always have you chop one and look in the middle. If I see that streak, I got maggot. If I don't, I got apple scab on the outside. And that's something that's not lethal and totally curable and edible, frankly, too. So we can fix that later. It's kind of gross, but we'll do that next week because that's disease. Root weevil. Okay, that's another one. Probably every resident in Western Washington has had that on their rhododendron, their laurel, whatever it is. If I see a leaf and I see a round notch cut from the outside, not the middle, but can you see those leaves on there? Where that little root weevil crawls up in the middle of the night, takes its foliage, bites on the edge, and then goes back to the soil during the day. You'll never catch them. Okay, so I either have to, back in the day, again, we went towards murder, death, kill, systemic. If I sprayed systemic on a rhododendron, it soaked into the foliage. The next time they came up and bought, they ate the chemical. We had a dead root weevil, right? That also meant dead bee because it's in the flower and all the rest of it. So we're not doing systemic anymore, obviously. Root weevil, to me, the best way to get it is two choices. I get something on the ground like this. This is 8, cheap, in a big bag. It's chemical, but it's not systemic, and I'm not going to hurt anything in my plant with the bees with this. So if I go in my rhododendron and I sprinkle that out on the soil and it's raining, this is one thing you want to do when it's wet as possible, because I don't want it on the surface, I want it in the ground. I put that 8 dust down, and that will eventually work its way through and hopefully eliminate my larva. So that, I think there's a pretty simple, safer solution for. The other thing is, if you're totally organic, this is a chemical called bifenthrin. That doesn't really matter, but it is chemical. If you're like, I'm not doing that, I'm an organic garden, I don't want any chemicals at all, then we go get tanglefoot. Anyone ever heard of that? So we get, if you take an old rhododendron trunk, right, they've been eating on, we've got trunks, right, at the base. So if I get like a little weed barrier or some fabric and tie a little bandage around there, I can smear this tanglefoot, a natural paste, on that. That little root weevil tries to climb up, it gets stuck in that tanglefoot. It's almost like Vaseline. So it gets stuck on there, and then you come out and go, oh sweet, I caught some, throw them away and put some more on. You know what I mean? They're really cool bugs, to be honest with you, but they do some damage to rhododendrons. You got it. So tanglefoot would be one option, or we would get the ground treated, which I think you're going to have better luck with. This bag does about 10,000 square feet. That's a lot of shrubs, and we don't need to do the whole garden perhaps. I would look at old rhodies and things that might have that issue and focus on inside the drip line. You want to get that treated underneath it on a rainy day, or water it in when you're done. That way it's not on the soil surface for the birds, the dog, the cat, you, everybody else, okay? On the vegetable garden, it would probably be something like wireworm, and we do the same thing typically with carrots. They get into carrots, but a lot of the root crops we might grow, that again is something you can't physically see under the soil surface, but bifenthrin is totally safe to use on vegetable gardens, or sometimes we can get something on the surface to hopefully not get them in there in the first place. So I'd watch your root crops. If you ever see something like that, the carrots, the beets, you know, things that we grow on the ground, we will get the appropriate crop fixer for that too.
That was 8, right?
8,
okay.
Granular. So the last one here, crane fly, and I probably should slash crane fly / European chafer beetle. They're in my yard right now, and the raccoons are finding them on a nightly basis. So this is a little grub that lives in our turf. It eats grass roots. Both of them, their favorite food is grass roots. So if you have lawn and we have large brown areas, again, I would want to help you diagnose it, because it could be something totally different. But if you have those large areas, if I told you a tip, I'd say grab a square shovel and dig straight down a little square, like right at the edge of a brown to green area of the lawn. Take that little cube out, lay it on its side, the gloves on, carefully dig through that soil structure, not the top inch or two, but down there, you know, 3, 4, 5 inches or so, and look in there. You're going to find those little C-shaped grubs squirming around. Then you would know you have something like that. Then again, I'm gonna have to go back to the 8. Neem oil has been working pretty well for me. There's some certain things you can put on there to hopefully get them out. If I don't, they're gonna hatch. The flies leave here, but then they come right back and lay eggs again in the summer, and it will be even worse this fall. So I would try to get ahead on this if you can in the spring. Make sure you have this before you go buy, 8 or something. You can bring a sample in, find a picture. You can find probably a lot online on this too. But make sure you have that before you buy it. A lot of times, brown is also Thatch disease, which would be next week, and that would be something totally different to fix versus that crane fly or the chafer beetle. The last one is slug and snail. Again, with the lack of winter this year, I think you're going to have a lot of slugs out. They're already out in my yard. They're out at the nursery. I've seen more everywhere than we typically do this early. So again, goes back to that debris cleanup. If you've got plants that are typically slug prone, it's not that you got to throw them all in the trash and buy something different. Get them protected early. If we keep the perimeter up around those plants, they can't get in there and lay a bunch more eggs, and we hopefully don't have the amount of slug and snail damage. I brought in all 4 of these here to show you for slugs. So again, the metaldehydes, the old poisons, we banned them years ago. I think Lowe's and Walmart, some places might still sell that stuff. But please, if you got birds, you got pets, you got cat, dog, I would never put that stuff in my yard. It's just nasty stuff. This is as effective, but totally organic listed. So diatomaceous earth is just crushed up fossils, essentially, if you think of that. We put it in our hand and it feels like soft, fluffy dust. We put it on the ground, it's like a razor blade to a slug, a snail, a soft-bodied insect. So this works very well in a lot of turf areas, or again as a preventative, as an optional slug bait, okay? These 3 are iron phosphate, but they're all a little bit different. So is anyone used Sluggo? Because that's what we've sold for years. That's all I've used for probably 20 years now. But iron phosphate Sluggo, there's nothing wrong with the OG, I call it. The original is on there. Sluggo is fine. It's just iron phosphate. If that's what you've been using, there's nothing wrong with continuing to, okay? If I go Sluggo Plus, that's exactly the same, but now this has spinosad in it, okay? The same thing we would find in this liquid bottle. So if I had slugs plus maybe some other things I did not want, maybe that is my choice. Does that make sense? Okay. The last one is Sluggo Max, okay, right here. That is exactly the same thing as Sluggo, but it has a different attractant. So I tell people, if you want to save money and you're not into the habit of spreading X amount of this out, this little can does like 10,000 square feet, a massive amount of area, like 10 times more than typical Sluggo, and it doesn't cost that much more, okay? So if you were smart, you probably get more bang for your buck with Sluggo Max, but if you've used this time and time again, get in the habit of using way less of this. That's the whole point. I don't need very much to get the action. Does that make sense? Okay? So there's our slug deterrents. And again, with the way the weather went, and every spring here anyway, with the wet, shady, woodland type gardens, I would try to get that down as soon as you can. I did mine is a month ago. I was probably already out doing a lot of this when it came to the slugs. Okay? Now, before we cut you loose, so I brought up a bunch of stuff here that I'll just stand up and show you a few things. That's kind of a list of what I get down to now. I like the fact our pharmacy department is shrinking, because I think it's confusing to a lot of gardeners. You come into a store and see 5,000 bottles. It's like, well, what do I need? I don't understand why sometimes stores carry 7, 8, 9 different brands and 9 things that take care of the same problem. It's just like, give me the best, or the better and the best at least. I don't need all this choice. I think it just confuses people. So we're very tidy here, and we're getting the best. The stuff that we all use in our yards, things we use at the nursery here, we use none of the chemical stuff here, ever have, our growers. So I'm very careful. We use a lot of neem oil here. That's the #1 thing, neem oil and spinosad. Even spraying weeds is all natural here as well. So Those are the things I would gravitate towards. All this stuff is going to be on sale for the class. So if you need things this week, today, it runs through Friday, but because I'm doing diseases next Sunday, same time, this literally is just going to go for 2 weeks. So you can buy disease stuff today too if you wanted, and it's going to come up with the same discount. So natural, bags, sprays, all of it's going to be on special, okay? So I'm going to show you a couple things before we kick you out of here. We're trying to make these quicker. We're doing good today. So I brought 3 sprayers in just because I don't know what you guys have. So this is a typical tank sprayer, okay? I measure, I follow the instructions. Okay, don't be a guy and think you put 10 times more on there, it's gonna work 10 times better. It does not. So we follow the instructions, we put it in here, we fill it up to the mark, it's pressurized, we pump it, we simply spray. Now, I would tell you this, if you'd have one of these, great. If you don't, maybe this is the way to go, and maybe it's buying 2 of them. I have 2 in my garage barrel. One of them says death, one of them says life. Okay, I'm not putting herbicides in the one that I'm gonna go spray my plants with for bugs and disease. So if you really want one, I got a fertilizer one too that we keep separate, but I would always have one for killing weeds, herbicide, whatever you want to call it, and then a separate one that's never had that in there that you're safe to use on your plants, okay? We don't need an insect sprayer, a disease sprayer. We can rinse it, we can mix things together, it's fine. I wouldn't worry about that. But this may be, for some people, they love these. Other people are like, yeah, I like the tank sprayer. Give me something different, okay? This is a really simple thing that's a lot less expensive. Well, it's not that much less expensive than that, believe it or not. But this is a simple one. I can do the same thing. Take the cap off, mix up what I need in there, fill it full of water. This pressurizes very well, okay? Then I've got the same thing. The simple little pump on top. I like this one perhaps for small jobs, a lot of house plants. Maybe I just have 1 or 2 things I got to worry about because I don't have to mix very much. This is only the small size liter versus doing a whole gallon. And I can also mist very well. The brass tip on this and that, frankly, does very well where I can stream. You really want more of a mist or a cloud to make sure, again, we've got total coverage in that plant, okay? The last one is this chameleon. And the reason we get this is what we call a hose end sprayer, okay? So I use this more for feeding. I don't use this for spraying. I don't think it shoots up quite as much. It does work for smaller, lower things, but this is not something we're gonna get up into a tree quite as easy. But I like this because if I didn't want to mix a lot of stuff, I can actually screw my bottle and not even use this and put my bottle right on. Where's a bottle? I don't have anything with a cap off. But I literally pop the cap on that and I screw that bottle right into there. I can set my dial. Oh, that wants 2 tablespoons to a gallon. Turn it on and off we go. Okay? So again, I tend to use this more for my water-soluble fertilizer, my dahlias, my pots, that kind of stuff. But it could just as easily be used for spraying, particularly low weeds, you know, maybe shrubs and things, but probably, again, not quite as much up in the air, okay? Now, if I just whip through these real quick before I cut you loose, so I'm going to just show you a few things. So right here is what I would call combination spray, okay? So you can see this is on the edible side of things because we do not want to use chemical on things we're going to eat. So we have a simple tomato and vegetable spray. That does bug and disease. So that's natural sulfur, it's got pyrethrin in there. So I take care of aphids and whiteflies and a lot of the stuff we've talked about, and powdery mildew and some disease side of things. So this one for vegetables in particular and herbs, I can use it in my yard too if I wanted. This is the way to go for fruit. If I had fruit issues besides the maggot, aphids, whiteflies on the new growth, simple bugs, scab, mildew, all that stuff, the orchard spray is a really good product, I think, for homeowners. And I like the fact, if I looked at these 3 bottles, what do we have? We got a Windex bottle. We call this ready to use. I simply open it up and I trigger spray until I can't move my finger anymore, right? I get that and I'm done, okay? I want to save money. Water's cheap. I buy concentrate. I mix my own, right? Put it in a sprayer, put it back in the garage, I bring it back out. If I keep this from not freezing and not 100 plus degrees, it's going to be there and not go bad. I shake it up, I mix it, put it back in, off we go. This sometimes is handy for homeowners. This is what we call RTS, ready to spray, because they built in a sprayer for you. So if I didn't have this and I didn't want this, I simply take this home, plug it on my hose, prepare for battle, open it up, and I start spraying. This pressurizes it for me. Bottle's empty, done. We go get another one. This covers a lot. So this isn't quite as concentrated as a bottle, and I can't just refill it. I've asked. But this will dilute it. Typically their sprayers are like 9-to-1, so it's a little bit different. If you do some math, you can figure it out. I did, but this is the way to go. If you maybe didn't want a sprayer and you wanted something easy, you'd buy RTS. And there's a lot of stuff now that comes in that bottle. We've kind of gone that direction to make it easier for homeowners. Okay. Now, I brought up 8 a couple times, and I think this is confusing to some people. So that's 8 and that's 8, and they're two totally different things. It drives me crazy. I wish they would relabel one of these things. So 8 granular is all about the soil. We talked about the crane fly, the European chafer beetle, root weevil in the ground. This will do nothing on my plant. This is about soil application. This is the chemical form, non-systemic again. This is still safe for vegetables and fruits and berries and all the rest. If this is again permethrin, but this is a totally different product than this. Is that okay? Because this is a confusing thing to staff sometimes here, but in a lot of classes I bring these up. So, you know, if you wanted one insect and you didn't mind chemical and you wanted one spray in the garage that probably takes care of 99% of everything, you're probably going to go for 8. You know, in the lack of systemics anymore, this would be the way to go. If I'm going for the soil, this would be the way to go. Okay, those are the 2 8s. We talked about the Sluggo, so just keep in mind the minor differences and choose the best one for you. Again, I think a lot of gardeners, including me, have been using Sluggo for a lot of years, or iron phosphate is what it is. So it was tough for me to swap to Max and save money for me, because I was used to looking at X amount around a plant, and now it's just less. So if you want to follow the instructions, you'll get a lot more bang for your buck out of that Max versus old school Sluggo. Okay? I brought in horticultural oil. Okay? Now this is actually listed OMRI, Organic Materials Research Institute, so that is stamped OMRI, the horticultural oil. And this is something we use a lot in the winter as a dormant spray if you wanted to prevent things from getting on the next year or had problems in the previous season. This would help you start the year clean. I think what I want to emphasize is not only can I use this in the winter, I can use this like I would neem oil during the growing season. If I read the label on there, it's going to tell me don't use it on foliage when it's 90 degrees outside. How many days are 90 degrees in the state of Washington? Maybe mid-July to mid-September if we were safe. And honestly, you shouldn't have to be out there spraying at that time of year anyway if we took care of this in the spring. So if you have this or you bought it before, I want to make sure you don't think of it as, oh, it's not winter, I can't use it. We can use that during the season as well. It does very well on a lot of bugs. Again, if I put oil down, I run and I cover everything. Nook, cranny, crevice, I cut off oxygen, I win. Okay? This is the spinosad, which is probably our #1 selling thing. Okay, so there's all 3: RTS, RTU, concentrate. They gave that a funny name finally, Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. Okay, so that's a natural spinosad, a totally organic creature in there. Okay, that it would take care of, again, a lot of different bugs. Not everything, but you would see a massive amount listed on that label for effectiveness when you use something like the Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. Okay, we talked about BT. That's our caterpillar killer. Okay, and honestly, this will take care of your caterpillars too, but we're always going to have both of them, so we get a little bit of crossover with those two. But BT traditionally was probably one of the first compounds to come out 20, 25 years ago that was totally safe for, again, a lot of the parks, the cities, the state to use to manage the caterpillar death, okay? These two are also very useful. We have insecticidal soap. We talked about sometimes we make that in our little home kitchen. You know, we use some dish soap and we do that. If you did, this would probably be a little bit more effective. It's a little more dialed in being in a bottle. But insecticidal super soap, again, totally natural, very effective on a lot of different things. There's a couple different compounds in there that are listed organic that combine to make a very effective insecticide that's natural. Bond neem, I could almost put over here with the orchard spray, because this one will do bugs and disease again. They don't make it in a concentrate, so this is kind of one we just buy by the bottle and use it as we need it. But Bond neem has a great organic fungicide in it and also a very effective insecticide. So we would do that again as both for a natural cure, okay? And the last thing here is neem oil. And like I've said probably 3 times already, I use more of this at my house than anything. This and spinosad are my 2 go-tos. And at the nursery here, by far, we use more of that. This is every single day and week year-round. Houseplants is daily. This is our rose spray. I don't use chemicals around here on anything. So I'm in here at the crack of dawn with the huge backpack sprayer, and that is what I'm managing aphids with, white flies, any kind of bug. And again, this does bug and disease. So I kind of get everything in one fell swoop, okay? The one thing I would say with neem, because I think most gardeners are familiar with how effective it is these days, is why is there so many kinds? And it's starting to kind of drive me crazy, to be honest with you too. So there's nothing wrong with old-fashioned neem oil. I'm just going to say that. This was out first. It's neem oil. It's easy. It's liquid. If it gets cold, it kind of gets a little coagulated. We just got to warm it up, and then we can put it in our sprayer, and off we go, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. What they've done is made neem max now. So this is just a different form of neem that's cold pressed. It's much more concentrated. So I would say maybe you get a little more bang for your buck, you know, but either one works, okay? So I'll probably start using this at more than I did my old neem when I'm done with my bottle. But neem max, the one thing I like is they put it in a little battery sprayer here for you. So we've had a lot of customers ask, I don't want to do this all day. I don't want to deal with it. I got a condo, I got a small yard, whatever it is. I don't need all that. Give me something I can have around. This, I have batteries in there. I plug that in, I turn it on, and it sits there, pumps it for me. I spray what I want, I turn it off, I put it away, and I bring it back out. So it's very, very easy to use. But I can buy concentrate. I can buy the RTS again and have more. Or I can buy a little RTU with the battery on. It makes it a little easier to spray. And I can refill that as well, okay? So is that neem confusion? Because this is tough for our staff too. I mean, I do our training here for our employees, and that's a tough one to get them to understand. Like, there's nothing wrong with any of it. It probably just comes down to choice. Do you like the newer Max? Do you like old-fashioned neem? Because the other one is this, okay? And this is exactly that, okay? Those two that's exactly the same bottle with a different label, because this speaks to the rose gardener, this speaks to everybody else. So it doesn't matter which one you get. This is what I use on our roses. I could just as easily go get a bottle of this. If we're out of one, I go grab the other, because this is the same thing. They just put it in 2 different packages, okay? All right, insect overload. Questions?
Vegetable garden, sweet peas growing up on a trellis, they got aphids.
Huh?
Can you spray with neem around? I'm not spraying the vegetables,
Yeah.
but it's gonna drip.
Oh, you can use neem on vegetable for sure. You could also have spinosad, insecticidal soap, almost anything up here will take care of your peas. I got mine are just up. I'm not quite over up the thing yet. I'll be doing the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine with that. Yeah. Yes.
If you've had problems with your fruit trees before, could you I did all the horticultural oil on the copper fungicide, did all that. I want to try and be proactive this
Yeah,
year. Can
yeah.
I start once we stop raining?
Oh yeah.
Doing orchard spray?
Oh, for
on
sure.
it?
Yeah. If I wanted to have a very clean disease and bug again, never spray and bloom.
Right.
So as soon as my fruit tree's done blooming and my foliage has emerged, if I got on a once a month schedule with that, even you're going to be way ahead of the rest of us.
Would it help to try 8 on the ground, the granules? 'Cause
I
you
don't think around the fruit as much,
Okay.
unless I had something I knew was in the ground. I would more focus on the tree with the fruit. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes in the fall, you know, I tend to clean up the debris, the fallen foliage.
I've
Okay,
done
I
that.
probably don't have to worry about it. If I didn't, that's when I might throw some of that down in the fall, because to make sure I got nothing trying to overwinter in the soil.
And will that take care of orchard spray? Take care of leaf curl?
Peach leaf curl, it'll help. Yeah,
Does it?
copper is by far better with leaf curl, but the sulfur will help.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right. So don't forget, if you've got, hey, I'm always here, especially this time of year. I'm here weekends now. Wednesday I'll be home working in my yard. Sometimes Tuesday I get out of here, but I'm always here, and we got great staff around here. It's not just me. So send pictures, bring sample down. Don't have to put a gas mask on and a hazmat suit. Just put it in a little Ziploc bag to make sure it's not something crazy. We'll take a look at it, because to me that's always phase one. We got to figure out what your problem is specifically, what bug it is, and get you the right thing to fix it. Because if you don't, we get the wrong product. Oh, I think it's that. Well, then we didn't fix it. Then we get even worse down the road. I think you brought up a great point to close with. The problem with the garden is maybe not you, it's your neighbor. And so you might take care of everything you need to, and your yard's immaculate. The neighbor has the problem. It's probably even more so with disease next week. Wind, the rain,
Yeah.
it all travels right back in. And like you said, you sprayed dormant spray, perfect. When that thing blooms, if the lady down the street has leaf curl or blossom blight or an issue, it just blows right back down in the wind and gets right back on my tree again. So if I don't have the shield up, so to speak, or stay ahead of it, then I have the same problem again. With bugs, you know, typically you're not going to hop, you know, block, but like we've talked about, they're going to move from plant to plant, and they will eventually make it there if it's at the neighbors. Okay, and that's why especially because I live by some green belt, and I got a couple neighbors that's fine. They don't do much to their yard. I'm going to be watching the caterpillars. No, you're not coming across my fence. You can stay next door. You know, kind of thing. So there you go.
Is tomato blight a disease?
Disease, yeah,
Okay.
for sure. And that's another one. You know, we'll talk about those diseases next week, but to me, you know, spraying is part of it, but also just not doing it too early is a big part of it. If I go buy tomatoes in April, early May, it's still raining, you're going to get tomato blight in Western Washington. If I wait like me, I don't put mine out until the end of May, 1st of June. That way I'm that much warmer, I'm that much drier, I probably don't have to worry about it quite as much. So,
I actually meant potato. Sorry.
potatoes, same
It's the same
thing. I've
thing.
already put my potatoes in, yeah, it's the
Okay.
same thing. Yeah. Yep. All right, yes.
New owner of a fig tree. Any particular bugs that?
I just wouldn't think, I mean, again, aphids get on just about everything. I don't think you worry about much with fig. Usually fig's pretty, you got hot sun,
Yeah,
well-drained soil, you're probably going to be pretty easy with the fig. Much less hassle. The worst, I don't say the worst because it's still fun to grow, and I have one. The hardest stuff is going to be your stone fruits. Peach, apricot, nectarine, plum, cherry, kind of second, and then the apples and pears and spur fruits and things maybe a little less issues with. But with our climate schedule, it's just rain. We really got to watch here before bloom, after bloom, getting those types of trees sprayed so we just don't get the problem. And if you've got, sounds like you've had leaf curl, we get it too.
Yeah.
I've had it at my house. It looks like the absolute plague. It is not. You know, it's like, God, that is horrible. I got to cut this down, throw it in the garbage. We get it sprayed with copper. It turns out fine. It's not the plague. All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
Got to watch a little TV today. I didn't turn the basketball game on though.